a new year with new laws here in South Carolina. Today, I talk one-on-one with notable attorney David Aylor for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. David Aylor, welcome back to the award-winning Quintin's Close-Ups.
It's always great to be with you, Quintin. Happy New Year, my friend.
Likewise. Obviously, it is a new year, and there are so many new laws coming from the state of South Carolina, particularly the House of Representatives and the state of South Carolina. And let me just jump right into it. Hands-free bill, aka the Senate Bill 248, which will prohibit, that is, all South Carolina motorists from holding a cell phone or any communication device while operating a motor vehicle in most cases. And let me break down a resolution that says this: to amend Section 561720 of the 1976 Code relating to points that may be assessed against a person's driving record for motor vehicle driving violations, to provide that second or subsequent offense of distracted driving is a 2-point violation, to provide that the actual Department of Transportation shall notify motorists of all hands-free requirements at certain points along the state's interstate highways and define necessary terms. What are those necessary terms that they want to define?
Well, I think they're going to be defining what the terms would be of enforcement and how they're going to go enforcement. And that's really a big question about this bill particularly is, how are they going to enforce it? Obviously if an officer pulls up and witnesses something, they can attest to it themselves, but is that going to be something that's actually on their camera that's in the car? So there's a lot of variables that come into play. So I would be surprised if this bill actually makes it all the way through. I think South Carolina has a lot more priorities on their mind as far as what the state needs and what they want to get through. But these are always the type of bills that get to a starting point, and then maybe down the line, similar to the text bill that went through just a few years back, you'll actually see something like this actually finish both the House and the Senate and become a law.
What are those other variables?
The things that they have to look at is one, is the punitive side of it. In this case, they're talking about you having points violations, so that'd be similar to any other type of traffic violation. So we're not talking about, anything related to criminal activity. But then on the other side of that, you also have to wonder, where are they going to come up with what the fine amount of money is, how that amount of money is allotted to the agency, to the city, to the county, and to the state. Those are the type of things that really you get into the devil's of the details.
And speaking of which, let me turn to medical marijuana. This is coming from the Senate 150 and has been obviously a hot topic for many years in South Carolina. This particular bill could amend the South Carolina Compassionate Care Act to allow the sale of cannabis for certain conditions, for restrictions on doses plus methods of consumption, including only allowing the use of oils and consumption orally. And this particular resolution says this: to enact the South Carolina Compassionate Care Act to amend the Chapter 53 title of the 1976 Code relating to poisons, drugs, and other controlled substances by adding Article 20 to provide for the sale of medical cannabis products and the conditions under which a sale can occur, and to amend that Section 12362120 of the 1976 Code relating to exemptions from the South Carolina sales and use tax to provide that cannabis be sold by a dispensary to a cardholder is exempt from any certain sales tax, but obviously to repeal Article 4 of Chapter 53, and this is long, Title 44 of the 1976 Code relating to controlled substance and therapeutic research, and to define necessary terms. What are those necessary terms?
Well, first of all, you have to look at what the terms of the bill is going to be, and there's obviously this bill that's coming out of the Senate, but there could be another bill that comes out of the House that somewhat mirrors it, but has different requirements and things that are in play. One example is whether or not they would actually just have liquid, or there would actually be any smoke marijuana available, and at least within this bill, it appears to not be. But I do think this will have a good chance of passing. It's got bipartisan support in both the House and Senate, and Tom Davis, who is a very powerful state senator here from the Beaufort-Lufton area, has been pushing this for quite some time and is making it very much a top priority for him and the rest of the Senate. So I think you may see some form of this. I do not think it's going to be very much similar to some other states that we know of, and I'm definitely not going to be a situation where you're going to see them slip in recreational marijuana as well. But you just still do have some pushback by some legislators throughout the state as well as the chief of SLED, is Mark Keeley.
Right, exactly right. And I want to reread this. It says this, obviously relating to the exemptions from the South Carolina sales and use tax, to provide that cannabis sold by a dispensary to a certain card holder is exempt from a certain sales tax. What is that certain sales tax?
No, they're just basically, as opposed to when you have sales tax for, let's say, you want to purchase groceries or anything like that, they're saying that it will not expire, so that will be excluded. There'll be the sales tax aspect of it, just from that side. Now there could be other taxes, of course, for the dispensaries that have the marijuana as well, that will come against the sellers themselves, but not sales tax in relation to going against the person who's actually purchasing legally the medical marijuana.
And it says this, the bill could amend the South Carolina Compassionate Cure Act to allow the sales of cannabis for certain conditions with restrictions on doses and methods of consumption. What are those doses and methods?
Well, it's just going to be like any other controlled substance. You think about pain medicine, things like that. You have certain amounts that they're allowed to prescribe, certain amounts of medicine you're be able to get within a certain period of time for refills. Those are the type of restrictions you'll see put on place.
Let me turn to the hate bill, otherwise known as House Bill 3036, which add hefty penalties to a person who is convicted of a crime to cause harm to another person due to their race, religion, color, sex, age, national origin, sexual orientation, and homelessness. But this was interesting, David. It says this, in section 1611, 5520 of that bill, it is unlawful for a person to willfully and maliciously cut, mutilate, deface, or otherwise injure a tree, house, outside fence, or fixture of another, or commit to another trespass upon real property or of another person. Why this? Why now?
Well, we have a federal bill that's already in place, a federal law for that. It's very similar to this, and they're specifically talking about anything in relation to property, or like as you mentioned, the home, trees, surroundings, that sort of things. Again, with it being a certain area where you can actually say that they're doing this due to some sort of bias and prejudice that they have, whether it be religion, sexuality, several different, of course, race as well. That's where that comes into play.
And what other bills should we watch out for in this particular legislative session?
I think it is going to be interesting to see as a whole what bills you're going to really see pushed through the House and which ones kind of get slowed down in the Senate, and then vice versa. But I think medical marijuana, as well as school funding, which is always a huge issue, are going to be two of the top things, considering all the amount of tax loss we had this year in revenue because of the pandemic.
And let me go back to that hate crime bill. That is, it would add hefty penalties to a person who's convicted of a crime to cause harm to another person due to race, religion, sex, color, age, national origin, sexual orientation, or homelessness. What would those hefty penalties be?
Stiffer sentences is what you're talking about there. Not so much punitive fines, but actual prison sentences.
David Aylor, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to the award-winning Quintin's Close-Ups.
Always great to be with you, Quintin. Happy New Year, my friend.
Likewise. Yeah.